Woohoo! Yay! Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hey,
I know that Valerie cannot make it today. She emailed me earlier this morning, so I'm not sure about
Alan or Joel.
Alan or Joel or
Okay.
Adnan. But I think we do have a quorum, so there's Joel. Okay. It's just 7 o'clock now, so.
okay.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming, everybody. Good to see everybody again. It was good to see
Good
some
to
of
see
you
you guys.
this weekend. Moving the storage units, that went really, really well. It took us about an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
well. So let's see here. I see everybody's here except for Adnan and Alan. Oh, and Daniel is not in here yet. So and Valerie already told me she couldn't come. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order, and the first order of business is we need to vote to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. I hope everybody got your updates to Deb. Any questions on the minutes? Yep, Debbie.
Oh, the other Deb, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes from the May 14th meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the May 14th meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so Margie moved and Nicki seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Raise your hand. Any abstentions? All right, so the minutes are approved. Thank you. Good job, Deb. Okay, Debbie, finances, treasurer's report.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, first I wanted to show our cash balances here. You can see we've completely closed the Wells Fargo and the savings and checkings. Thank you so much, Tracy, for getting all that taken care of. I didn't have much access to that. Our on-point checking is very high now because we've not put any into savings. I think we're going to want to have a finance committee, which we haven't done yet, to direct a little bit of that. At least we can put it into savings and perhaps direct it into the Raymond James investments there. So those are our balances now. The 324,615. It's important to note that for the next reason, I'm going to switch to the race budgeting. So you can see here that our race income and our race expenses, which are in the red. Can you see my cursor moving or not? I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
No?
Yes.
Probably not. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Our races are just either breaking even or not breaking even. And you can see at the bottom, our total income from races so far this year is $333, which we're not in the business of making money, which is a good thing. We are a nonprofit, so it's a good thing that we aren't in the hole right this moment. And going back to what I said, we have the cash and the cash flow to do this kind of a race. So my view on it is we're not, like I said, we're not in the business to make money on the races, but we do want to try and break even as much as possible. But if we don't, we do have funds that cover the shortfalls. And to keep looking at our mission, are we doing what we want to do with our money? Are we providing good races? Are we providing good service to the community, that kind of thing? And if so, and we don't make any money at all on races in a year, that's the way it goes. Up here, or at the very top, I forgot to talk about the investment and interest income. I don't know if people follow the stock markets or the money market or the markets at all, but it's been a really good month.
Yeah.
Good 6 weeks. So you can see that we're 340% above our investment and interest income budget for the year, which is a good thing. So that's always can make up for a little bit of our shortfalls if needed. Other than that, next month, June, will be the 6-month mark, and it will be 4-ish months since I've been in this position. And so I'll present the other parts of the budget besides the races, and how above or below we are budget on our other parts of the ORRC club budget. So that's what I have for now. Any questions at all?
No, I can say that Dave's Solstice Run, we only have 52 people entered at this point. So it's going to be small. We're 11 days out, something like that. We had been hoping for more. We've really been trying to sell it with announcements via email and Facebook and stuff. So it could be that we just have a lot of late registrants. It's in the evening on a weekday, so that could be part of the cause of it. So I think Daniel said we need 90 people to break even, or 91, something like that. So it's a good chance that one's going to end up losing money.
And I don't know the budgets. I haven't looked very close at the budgets for 2020 COVID year or 2021, but I would suspect these numbers are better than those. So there you go.
It's also hard because Dave's Run, they had a lot more people before at the zoo, but we also lost a lot of money on it because we had to buy so much food with the zoo contract. So it's going to be smaller, but it might not lose as much as it did the previous years because we're not spending as much at the zoo. So.
But overall, I think we're keeping a good eye on expenses and income for all the races, at least in my view so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I know we're saving a ton of money with our storage units and with eliminating the graphic design position. So even if the races lose money, we'll still be, I think, okay.
And then next month, when all of that sort of comes in, or the not comes in, when we aren't spending on that, I'll be able to show a little better those budget numbers to show what we are at the half year, how we are on just our main expenses.
Okay.
Debbie, this is Margie, and there's one I don't see on here. Is the membership picnic. It's not really a race.
Oh.
We're not looking at really making money, but I believe my budget is $1,000.
Let's see. Let me move to the budget here. Member picnic, $1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go. This is the budget, the approved budget that we had. Yes, you're right. So next month, when I think you'll have spent some by next time we meet, getting ready for it.
Oh, definitely. The purchasing will start. It actually has started, but yeah. So I'll give you a little report on that one a little later on.
And if anyone needs the reimbursement form, I can send that to you, the blank one. If you want me to pay, if I'm talking to all race directors or all organizers now, if you need me to pay a bill directly, you don't want to float it yourself, then just let me know and I'll coordinate with the vendor to get that taken care of.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a couple of items on the agenda. This first one was brought up by Charissa, I believe, and I thought it was a good idea. We all, as you all know, and hopefully you've all been checking your board email accounts, or if you're a race director, checking your race director accounts. Just trying to keep a cat from walking in front of the computer. We don't have it written anywhere as a policy, and I know that's one of the things I wanted to be working on this year was not bylaws, but like a policies and procedures type manual for different positions and different just club policies. And one of those policies would be about emails and what we need to keep and what we can safely delete. I'll tell you right now, as president, I don't delete anything. I just kind of figure any correspondence I get via email is official club correspondence, and I just have lots of folders to save it in. But I generally, unless it's spam, I do not delete anything. I don't expect that of everybody else. But like the 1200 Club doesn't keep all of the board member emails and stuff like that. So I would welcome a discussion on what you all think would be important. I kind of figure financial stuff, and anything with IRS, I definitely want to keep. But yeah, I would welcome a discussion about what we believe should be kept and what is safe to delete. You don't have to keep long term. I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, good question.
I'll make a comment real quick. So from an IRS perspective, have we looked at the IRS regulations for nonprofits on how long they recommend keeping financial records? Because I know there's a balance of maybe you don't want to keep it too long. You want to keep it for the required time and not over save. But I don't know if that's something that the club has looked at before, but that would be a recommendation if that's not been done.
I know we try to save like the tax returns and financial statements on the shared drive, on the Google Drive. So that just kind of gets filed and saved indefinitely. I just didn't know when you're emailing each other about stuff for the board and stuff like that, do you feel a need to keep it? Is that considered official club correspondence? Or and Charissa?
I meant to look into some of that and I actually haven't, but I know that the RRCA like has a suggestion on records retention policy, and I would like a chance to grab that. I'm sorry I didn't prepare that for this meeting, but I think that might be a good reference to start from.
Be a good idea.
Yeah.
I would, let's.
If I could.
Yeah.
Or just thinking as a race director, you know, because like when I'm getting from our race, lots of emails, you know, to different people getting it all organized, and generally my habit is to save everything once at least my thought is that, you know, for at least for events, you know, that you after the planning for an event, save everything because you never know when you're going to need it, and then once it happens, then what I typically, at least not on my org email, but my personal email, which, you know, has race stuff on it, is I go through it and I think, okay, if I died tomorrow, what information would the next RD need? So if it's like an email that has a contact or something in it that would be valuable to a person taking over the race, I save it. But if it's just like, hey, don't forget to show up at a certain time at a certain place, you know, I figure I can delete it because that's going to come and go. So that's kind of my general approach to emails, at least on my personal email. You know, if it's something important that's I want to pass on, otherwise, you know, no big deal. So I think I would think that a similar policy with org emails as well. You know, that if it's certainly like on shared docs, you want to save important things about races, that kind of thing. But you know, I would recommend a policy similar to that.
Is everyone using an org email to conduct business for the organization, or do people use personal email? Because I think that might be an issue.
If they are a member of the board, they have a board specific email. Yes.
Okay.
All of the reminders about the meetings and information about board business, that all comes to board email address. And if they are race directors, they have access to the race director, like Dave Solstice Run has a Dave Solstice Run account. Sometimes it goes to personal because we're not sure if there's co-race directors who's regularly checking the race versus, so you want to make sure you or depending on when the race is. Like I just sent some stuff to Ryan for Hag Mud, so I wasn't sure if he was currently checking the Hag Mud email since it's So,
I use both personal and the org, and kind of like I'm gonna say, like a couple days ago I sent out something to all the race directors, and that one definitely used the org RD, the VP of race operations used that because it was an official email sent to RDs, and so that kind of thing I definitely will, you know, use my official club member club email. There's other things, so like if it's sometimes just more convenient, I'm on my personal email and I need to just send a quick note to somebody and it's a club thing, I will send it to a club address because even if it's still coming from my personal email, someone's official
Yeah.
email will receive it. And so it'll get into the official record, you know, that way, not from the receiver, not from the sender, but from the receiver. So it does get into the system one way or another.
It makes sense.
Debbie?
I can't find my little hand raise thing on down below. Anyway, we do have a document retention policy. I did a quick search. It's not fleshed out. So Charissa, if you wanted to take that on a little bit more. Charissa, sorry. And we do have to have one to file as a 990 file as a nonprofit. It's not that fleshed out, like I said, but it just states that we're not to commit fraud and not to destroy documents. That's one thing. So, you know, we could have a specific document retention policy for a few years, you know, specific years using the guidelines, Carrie, that the IRS would recommend. That's one. And just on a different little note there with Google, when you use the Gmail, which is what all of us use, the Google Mail service, even though it's Roadrunners Club, the emails don't delete even if they're in the delete folder until 30 days. So that's something to think of too.
Well, how about we do a little bit more research and kind of flesh out the policy and then bring up something more formal back to the board maybe next month? That sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Oh, are we getting, since we're talking about the stuff, board policies, there is somewhere in Share Docs a board of directors manual for the club, and it's pretty generic. It just talks about general, you know, policies and ethics. It doesn't really go very deep. And I've got I'm working on a rough draft for VP of race operations, what I think the job description should be for that. So I think it's probably maybe a longer term project is to flesh out the board of directors manual, which would include the email policy, would include for each board position job description and that kind of thing. And if we make it a group effort, like whoever's currently in that job would, you know, do their part, and then we need an editor to pull it all together and that kind of thing. But I think that's definitely a worthy project.
That would be my goal, is to have everybody kind of draft up like a job description for what you're doing. Just, it's like you're a coordinator for something. I think of, like, I see Daniel and he's the technology person and communication person, and, you know, kind of just, it doesn't have to be super, you know, long or anything, just kind of what you think you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever basis. So we have an idea. And then I can also work on other things also with Debbie. Things like, okay, if you are a board member or a coordinator or a race director, how do you get reimbursed? You know, what's the procedure for that? So it's not something that has to be approved in a bylaw vote or anything like that. It's just how we operate. How do we practice, you know, get things done? So if somebody new joins the board or becomes a race director, we can say, hey, here's some instructions for you to follow. We'll kind of walk you through it. But, you know, or when you're traveling for the board, or, you know, like to RRCA, do we have a per diem? Do you just get reimbursed for whatever you spend? What's the maximum you can spend? You know, little things like that just kind of get ready.
And I will say, having stepped in recently to the volunteer position, you know, Tracy and Julia, I believe you both worked on the volunteer procedures. I will tell you, it was immensely helpful, because I still go back and I look at it, but it was very easy to follow. And, you know, so it was very helpful. I don't know that I would have been able to track everything if I had not had that. So
if I may, emphasize one thing, like you mentioned, this is to be a practical manual. It's not it's not something that needs official board approval, but just how do we do it? You know, so like I said, a new person knows to do it. The second thing, I think we need to, like I say, we human beings operate better with deadlines.
I was going to say.
If we say, oh, sometime you should do this thing, you know, say, you know, at some point, you know, give each board member, each coordinator, and say, okay, this is what we want, and this is when we want it. So give us, we work better with deadlines. So, I mean,
Well,
whatever
I
you
I would like to have something completed by the end of the year, but that means working on it now. I would hope,
Yes.
I would like to ask every board member or race director or coordinator to prepare something maybe by the end of July, so we can
Okay.
then put some things together and have a draft for everybody to
Okay.
start. So
Cool. July 31st.
Okay.
I have a deadline. I love it.
Okay, so that's on everybody's to-do list. Okay, the next item up for discussion is there's an option for donations in RunSignUp, and I discovered this when we were working on Pumpkin Ridge. And there was apparently a donation button that they were raising money for. Well, they said in the paragraph it was raising money for our community outreach programs that we donate to high schools and to schools and stuff like that. The link on it actually took it to the young girl who ran it last year, who was running a 10K in every state to raise money for cancer. So I'm not sure if you look and RunSignUp, you can run a report, and it said we raised $400 in donations, but we fixed the link so it actually goes to our community service website page. But I know that some races have wanted to raise money for other causes, and we don't really have a process for deciding what charity or donation we want people to be donating to. And I know this came up several years ago, it must have been a decade at least. And at one point, there was a suggestion that we were going to raise money for like Habitat for Humanity. And the board discussed it and said we would not, simply because Habitat for Humanity, which everybody loves, it's a wonderful organization, but it doesn't really have ties to our mission and what our club is geared to do. And so they decided not to donate to that particular organization, even though many of us individually donated and worked for it. We wanted it to be more donations either to the club itself or to some type of organization that was more within the mission of our club. And as a nonprofit, we have to be careful about if we're donating money to other organizations, do they tie into our mission and are they nonprofits and all that type of thing. So that was the discussion that the board had like a decade ago. But again, we've never had a process in place officially. I mean, that race director came to us and said, what do you think about this? And the board said, no, let's try to gear it more toward our mission. And I think that's probably why the wording on the donation page on RunSignUp for Pumpkin Ridge, formerly Garlic, said if people want to donate, they can donate to the club's community outreach fund. And that's where all the donations would go. And then it would get to different, high schools or grade schools or running organizations that might be more in line with that. So I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on what you think, if that's the way we want to keep going that way, or do we want to create a process where race directors could come to the board and say, I'd like to donate to this organization, not to where the club funds are currently going. What's the process for approving that? What do you all think?
Mark, that brings up something that you talked about, I think, earlier about the annual run in January with so in regards to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, we didn't. There was we talked about it. We never actually said anything up, but we did talk about that being as a possibility.
Were you going to try and look at doing that this next year?
Well, I think it's yeah, Margie, I want to quick respond to Charissa's question. There is the Pay It Forward fund, but that's kind of it's an internal thing. We don't actually accept money. We don't actually accept money for it. It's a credit system, and it's what the Pay It Forward fund is that when a person volunteers, they are entitled to a $50 credit at a future race. And some people, rather than accept the $50 credit, give that credit back to the club, and then race directors could use that credit to offer discounted entries to underserved populations. And so there's no cash involved. It's just simply, credits internally within the club that we deal with, so I think that's a different creature than because what we're talking about here, which is asking people if they'd like to donate money to a different organization that is not ORRC, and so that's the PIF is a different creature. And as far as Ralph's Run and whether we donate to Alzheimer's, that is, it certainly fits. I mean, in terms, Ralph struggled with that towards the end of his life, and the run is named after him. So to my mind, something like that would be totally appropriate. It has nothing to do with running directly, but it does have something to do with Ralph. So I guess I would support, if we're going to, we're not requiring anybody to do anything, but give the opportunity for people signing up for races to give money to a cause that is close to our hearts, whatever it might be. I don't have a problem with that, even if it's not running related, for example, and Ralph's Run is a great example of that.
Agreed.
Do we have the ability to have multiple options to choose from, so that if, like in the situation with Alzheimer's, if someone said, no, I actually want to be able to donate to the community outreach that ORRC is supporting, or to Alzheimer's because of the link to Ralph, can we do that?
Oh, no, I don't know. I'd have to research that. Daniel had his hand raised too, so. You're
okay,
muted.
so it's time for the grouchy old guy in the corner to start telling everybody to get off his lawn. Are we talking about on each race page, or are we talking about a general donation link on the site? Is it for race registration plus a donation, or is it just, hey, here's a link on our website, you can donate?
No, this is in RunSignUp for each individual event. When you're registered, individual events, registrations.
Can we just leave it up to the race director?
Well, I think that's the question. If it's not, I think Mark's response about Ralph's Run is a really good one, in that I believe in general it should be more donating to our community outreach. But if the race has a specific link to a cause like Ralph's Run, because Ralph had Alzheimer's, and the logo has the forget-me-nots and all, that is to me a good tie.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't have a tie, I try to think of like, was it Up the Lazy River used to be like it was on Memorial Day, and it was I think they used to raise money for veterans or something like that. They might have also done that on the 4th of July. But I think I would like it to be where I don't care if the board approves it or denies it. I just would like the race director to kind of come forward and say, this is who I would like to donate to, and this is why, so that we can have a discussion with each event.
All right. I just don't want to see it come out of the race director's hands. I don't want the race director to be, hey, we're going to have on your sign up page, we're going to have you a place people can sign up for this charity. And the race director might have a different idea. And I don't want us to get away from race director's prerogative. So, I mean, and if you're donating, granted, if you're donating to, Blanchette House, but it's a race that's going to be on, the 14th of August and it's out in Sherwood, I get it. That doesn't quite match. It's a great charity, but probably doesn't match. But if we were running it downtown, it would match. And so I think the race director should be straightforward as they're planning their event with the board as to, hey, look, we're going to have this page today, and here's where I'd like it to go, and here's why. I don't believe it's an approval thing, and I don't want to make this more difficult than it needs to be. But for example, I might have a cause that would work with Summer Solstice for being a Blue Lake. I don't think I would do that with Duel necessarily, but you have to remember, when I was ready to take Duel offline, I was going to have it connect with an autism charity, that have nothing to do with running, except the fact that they share a run and they share the lady who's going to be my co-director. So I'd like to keep it in the race director's hands as long as it's full disclosure to the board as to the why. And I don't think it requires a board or a extra amendment to the bylaws or anything like that. I think it's just, let's just be sure that the race directors are using good sense when doing it. Leave it up to them.
Could I suggest that all of our races have a donation link at registration, that the default would be to our community outreach program, so people have the option if they want to donate to our community outreach. If the race director wants to do a different charity, they just let us know so we can adjust the text on that question to let people know where it's going to.
I like that idea that the community being the default, or community.
Agree.
I like that idea too. I don't want to play devil's advocate to you, Daniel, but you can imagine a situation, you know, given the tumultuous last year of the club, where the race director has some prerogative or is kind of going rogue, where I would just disagree that I don't think it should solely be the race director's hands in making that decision, because even if we feel good about who the race directors are right now, I agree with Tracy's idea that it should have some link or make sense to either the purpose of the race or the mission of the club, if that makes sense. I mean, Memorial Day, going to veterans, that could make sense, but if it's something, you could imagine it could just be something completely random.
It seems
I
like
think
a
also-
check and balance to at least check in and have a process that if there is some pushback on the organization, there's an opportunity to review that as a group. I mean, I support what Daniel's saying, but I think that I think just like with your finances, this is tied to finances, so there should be a checks and balance involved.
Margie?
And I think also the board should be aware of it. If we're going to be at races, we need to know that, okay, the race director has added in a donation to an organization of some sort other than our community outreach, and so that we can support it in a way. But you know, so I think it's a good idea for the board to be actually informed of it, of their desire, and you know, I think to give a yay to it. I think it's important for the board to be aware of it.
I also kind of agree with Charissa. Just texted. She said, I'm a little wary of too many different causes being supported by the club. We have a defined mission for a reason. And I tend to agree with that. I know there's so many good causes out there, but we do have our own mission, and we are a nonprofit around that mission. And so I would be nervous, because I know some race directors in the past who have, I'm concerned with how they would have used the money. None of the ones that we currently have, let me make that clear. But the old Garlic Festival RD, you know, was using profits to buy drugs. And so that's not a different process, but, and the way it's set up right now, if it's through RunSignUp and they donate through RunSignUp, that money comes directly to the club, and then we would then write a donation to the whatever charity. If we raise $450, we'll write a check to that charity for that, but we'll get the money first and then we send it to them. So that's kind of the safeguard. And I'm not saying every race has to have a donation on it to that. I think it'd be good to have the default, like she said, to go to, you know, set it up for all of our events, have it go to the community outreach. And then if the race director wants to do something else, let the board know, and then we can decide. But I do worry if we have 10 different events and we're going to 10 different charities, that isn't actually what our overall goal is, in my view. But
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that if a race director is interested in having donations to an organization that could somehow tie into their race, other than the community outreach, it's discussed in a board meeting so that we can be aware of their desire, and their motivation for it, and provide support for that if that's what the board decides. But it provides transparency. That was kind of a long motion, wasn't it?
You did great.
Poor Deb.
There's clarity though. We have clarity. I would second that kind of awkward motion and maybe work on the wording a little bit, but the sentiment behind it, I second it.
Okay. How, I can try to clarify that a little bit. How about we state kind of like what Julie was stating, that I'm amending the motion here. The default charity set up for ORRC events would be Community Outreach Fund. And if an RD wanted to use a different charity, they would present it to the board before opening up registration to make sure everybody was aware of it, to see that it and approved to meet the mission of the club or the event.
Ooh,
Beautifully
much
stated.
better. I second that motion.
Okay.
Don't let me think off the top of my head, okay?
No, it's a process, right? It's a process.
Provide some context.
Nicki has a comment.
Yeah, Nicki,
Yeah, I can't find the hand raise thing either.
that's okay.
Also, we should kind of vet the charity, you know, look into it, because it would sure be awkward to have a member come in and say, hey, this charity is doing bad things, or they're not using the money good, or, you know, so I think it is good to get a second, you know, get us a little, you know, making sure it's all good.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll just interject on that a little bit. Once funds are given to the club, which they are through RunSignUp, they are the clubs. And then we would be good people a good club to send on that donation to that charity, but we don't have to. So it's our money and it's our responsibility to send it on, but we don't have to. So if something happened and it was to a horrible, somehow, I don't know how it would go to a bad thing, we could make the decision as a board not to send that on. Not that we would, but we could.
No donations to Boeing.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor of the motion.
Wait, I am so confused.
Okay,
I need a little more discussion.
Okay.
So Margie, in your original motion, you're moving that the RD bring it to the board to discuss, but you are not proposing that there needs to be any approval.
right, I revised it
That's
so
what,
it can be approved by the board.
Okay, why? Curious.
Specifically because we want to make sure that the charity that's being talked about either has a connection with the club's mission or the specific event's mission.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. Why not put board approval? To me, it seems like to discuss and give a blessing, but we don't vote on it.
No, it is. I thought I made it clear in my amendment that we would approve it. We would approve or deny based on the proposal.
Okay. Do we need to vote on this is like a weird Robert's Rules thing. Do we need to, usually you need to vote on the amendment and approve the amendment, and then you go and do the motion and then vote on the motion.
what I would suggest is let's use mine as just kind of the thoughts behind it, and Tracy's as actually the motion.
So you're
then
you're withdrawing your original motion.
Right, yeah. So Tracy could read back what the motion is, the wording in the amendment, what that is becoming the actual motion.
Okay. So
how's that?
So I have that if an RD is interested in donating to, well, first you said that the default be the community outreach grant. Right?
Deb, there's wording in the chat that Charissa made clear.
Okay. Anyway, and then if an RD is interested in donating to a different charity, that they bring this forward to the board for approval, discussion and approval. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie's comment about that we wouldn't have to be tied to donate the funds, is this part of the motion or no?
No, that's just
That
part
was
of
the
it.
comment. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay,
Do you want me to read it to you before we vote, or does everyone have the gist?
everybody have the gist of what it is? Okay, everybody in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
No,
Abstentions.
All right, the motion passes. Sorry, Daniel.
it happens. I just want my vote recorded.
Yeah, that's fine.
Were you an opposed, Daniel?
Yes, he was opposed. Daniel opposed the motion.
I did, yes.
And I completely understand where you're coming from, Daniel. I understand race director prerogative and all of that. I just, when it comes to.
I just don't want a donation page on a race I'm already charging $45 for.
And we can make it clear, you don't have to have a donation page on your event.
Yeah,
This is,
that wasn't in the motion. The motion was that we would have one regardless.
oh, yeah, there was gonna be default. Default, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the race director could then say, I don't want a donation page on my event. I mean, if you don't want it, you can turn it off.
Based on the motion we just passed, they cannot. So, I'm cool with it. I just want my no vote. I just want it recorded. So I'm cool with it. I'm perfectly happy to be in the minority.
That's fine, okay. Thank you, everybody, for a really good discussion. That was really helpful.
I've been in the minority a lot. I'm okay with it.
Okay, the next item is the cheer station for the Portland Marathon, and I don't have a whole lot more information on this yet. I just have contacted the Portland Marathon and let them know that we do want to be a cheer station. This would be in addition to our water station. We said we would man an aid station on the course, and then Charissa provided all sorts of fantastic information about the cheer station part of that. And I know, Joel, a long time ago, you had volunteered to take the lead on the aid station for Portland Marathon. Were you still up?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I'm maybe a little bit less enthused about the cheer section of that.
I think they're two different things. So we can have you be in charge of the aid station and somebody else may be in charge of the cheer portion of it. I'm not sure, but Charissa, you've done this before. So why don't you kind of lead this?
Sure. There's a little information on the Portland Marathon website. I can put it in the chat, but basically, since Brooksy took over the marathon, which I think was 2019, they've had this cheer challenge, and any neighborhood, whether you're on the course or not, can participate. Basically, the participants vote on what their favorite cheer station was, and the top winner gets $1,000, and the second prize is $500. And it's just this thing they came up with because in the last few years before Brooksy took over, kind of the reputation of the Portland Marathon was declining. And this is kind of like wanting to kind of engage all of the Portland community to be excited about the marathon again. And actually kind of the concept with Boston, how, along the route, it's famous for like how much the community comes out, supports it. And there's the Scream Tunnel at the whatever college it is. And so yeah, that's it. So anyway, it's kind of just to like change the whole reputation and the relationship with the Portland community. Eastmoreland, Joe and I are from Eastmoreland, so we helped spearhead the effort in Eastmoreland. And so we just kind of coordinated communications with neighborhood association and said a couple things. First, we wanted to let everyone know who didn't care about the marathon to know about it so they wouldn't be impacted negatively by the traffic, like could prepare for it and not get stuck and not get, parked in or have their car towed, because that contributes to negative feelings. But moreover, we wanted to hopefully have people get excited about it, come spectate, participate in the cheer station. So we had a small budget to get poster board and fat Sharpie markers, and we put up banners and brought out cowbells. And just before the pandemic, we actually had handed out like orange sections and stuff. But during the pandemic, no, but,
Charissa, do you have a location in mind
oh,
or a theme in mind? I'm
I,
just curious.
well, if we sponsored one, I guess we would want to ask if, obviously, maybe we could promote the club for a location, since we're not on the course. I think we would want to research where other cheer stations are, so we could be in a distinct location. And one advantage as a club that Eastmoreland doesn't have, for example, is Eastmoreland's only on the marathon portion. It's not on the half marathon portion. So you might strategically try to get a location that everybody passes by. In other words, both the half marathoners and the marathoners, because you'll get more exposure that way. Does that help?
Yeah. Julie just
Yeah.
said machine signs.
Yeah.
I don't know with the aid stations if we would be assigned an aid station, and if the cheer section would be tied to that. I'm assuming it would be. But maybe we just need to get more information from Portland Marathon first to find out where they.
Absolutely.
They probably have other people who've been doing aid stations and have the same one every year. I don't know, since we're a new organization volunteering for an aid station, if that would be the case. I don't know.
Okay, so
Okay.
I mean,
Well-
if I had the preference, I would rather do an aid station because it feels like you can cheer and provide aid at the same time. But we just don't know if they have any available for us to do.
I'm assuming that they would welcome us to do an aid station. I'm just not sure which one they would assign us to, or if we have a choice. And so maybe we just need to get back in touch with them and say, what's the process? Because we've asked them, we want to do one, but they haven't gotten back to us in terms of what the process is.
Just a quick question, guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm happy to kind of circle back around and email the race director and say, hey, we want to do this, which stations are available, is it in conjunction? So I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, if you could take charge of that, Joel, and just find out from them about the whole aid station thing, and if we could do a cheer station in addition at the same place, that would be great. I think I'm in agreement with Joel. I would like to focus on the aid station first, and then if the cheer section can be kind of incorporated into that, that would be great. But let's find out more information about the aid station first. That sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Thank you, Joel, for taking that on. Next item was our 2025 race calendar. I need to get, we're running out of time. Oh, we're running out of time, sorry. I just wanted everybody to start thinking, last year we kind of put it together and to get the magnets done in October. We really need to do this a little bit earlier, especially if we want to have the magnets available to hand out at the Portland Marathon in early October. So as race direct, we need to get, basically communicate with the race directors to figure out when they think their event would be next year and get the calendars so we can get the calendar set up. So what I would suggest is everybody who's a race director who's attending right now, if you could think about your event, Mark, if you could contact the other race directors and kind of confirm dates with the other race directors, and we can come back next month and kind of hopefully have a more in-depth discussion to finalize and firm up what the calendar will be for 2025. And that would also be if we want to add any new events back. I know there's been some talk about bringing Autumn Leaves back in 2025. And if we want to do that, what date would that be?
Who's the RDs?
Who are the race directors? Because we have to have all the race directors in place, things like that. So we can focus on that next month is my goal.
Yeah, I can do that. I can contact all the RDs and tell all the current RDs and say, are you coming back next year? And if so, on what date or dates are you going to have your event? And I can get that information by the next meeting.
Okay.
How is I know you sent out the poll. Do you have the results from that yet? Or what? Could you tell us more?
And I think I shared the results with everybody. I think I shared it with the board. race directors.
Okay.
So you should have gotten an email that that linked you to. I shared the survey so you could then click on the result tab at the top.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I misunderstood it because I said I already took the survey. Why did I need to take it again?
No, I was
Represent the result.
if you go-
Oh, now it makes
the
sense to me. I'll go back and look at the results. Read the
Okay.
instructions, huh?
there's nothing earth shattering about it. Yeah, there's nothing earth shattering about it. Yeah.
Well, what is? I mean, I guess how can I say we can? I get to me we can gauge the races we have this year. We can gauge, how they went and that kind of a thing. I mean, that's I think it's tangible because we could say, yeah, this worked, this didn't work, this will work, but I want to change some things for next year, kind of thing. The harder I think is races we want to bring back or even bring in new races. I mean, that's a less tangible thing. And how do we catch those? Is it because I'm like Nicki's talked about wanting to bring back Autumn Leaves, and I've told her, hey, I will co-RD with you to make that happen, kind of a thing, and does for a race to be created or to be brought back, does it require having an RD for it, or can we put something out there and say, here's a race, and if that's putting the cart before the horse or whatever, or can we put a race out there? Can we put a race on the calendar if we don't have an RD for it and kind of and push to bring it? I mean, I'm curious what people are thinking about that.
Say no. I'd hesitate to do that because I don't want to have to cancel it if nobody steps up to do the job.
Okay.
And I know, Mark, you would probably do it, but I would.
Yeah, probably would.
I'd be too scared
Or
to.
at least a
advertise.
co-RD.
Yeah.
Is there a way? I'm just not having read the results, but is there a way to track or if in a response where somebody said, this it happens to me all the time because I talk about, hey, I would love to see something come back, and my response to that person is, hey, you want to be the RD, kind of a thing. But if there are people out there, like Nicki, who are motivated, if there's a way, if there's any responses, from people like that, where we could, if someone said, I would love to bring back whatever race, and we can contact them personally and say, hey, you can make it happen. You wouldn't be alone. You'd have a co-RD, mentor, the whole bit. But
yeah,
do we have any responses like that?
We don't have anybody who said specifically, I will take this on. But what I'm thinking we could do is the top 3 that people marked, commented on bringing back was Autumn Leaves, of course, Up the Lazy River, and was Greenway. And some people said Blue Lake, but we already have an event at Blue Lake, so I'm not as concerned about that. But what we could do is send a quick email out to our database and say, hey, we're thinking about bringing this event back specifically. Many of you said you wanted to bring it back. Is anybody willing to help put the event on? Contact you or me or whoever, and see if we can get some responses that way before our next month meeting.
I think that we definitely should do that. I mean, make it clear to people, it's races don't just magically happen, that if they really love a particular race and really want to see it come back, they can make it happen. They wouldn't be alone and all of that. We would support them in every way possible. But I think that's definitely a good idea to put that out there to the general membership and to give them your name, give them my name, give them a date by which they need to let us know. So when we pick our calendar.
Sure. Okay, I will do that. Okay. I'm just looking at what we have here. We have upcoming events. We have RRCA conference workshops. We are approaching, and I hate to put it off because I wanted to talk about the RRCA, but I do want to get through some of the upcoming events first because we didn't do that last month. So I'm gonna skip over and do the upcoming events first, just do a thing like that, and then we can go back to the RRCA discussions. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Upcoming events, I've already kind of mentioned that the Dave's Dave's Run I told everybody we are at 52 people right now, and you need about 91 to break even. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully the weather's going to be good. And did you have anything you wanted to mention about it?
I have a few things because I just got my plan back from them, and they have now come up with 3 new things, which they never mentioned before. Number one, the county issued permits for the parts of the run that take place on the road. None of the race takes place on the road. But so I don't know if they're anticipating that I need a county permit even if it doesn't take place on the road. So I'll be calling them tomorrow to get clarification to make sure that I don't have to race somewhere to get a permit that I didn't need at the last minute. Now, Mark will tell me to get permits you don't need at the last minute is probably called doing business. But so I'm going to find out if I have to do that, because thankfully when you issued the insurance, you did issue one for the county for the roads. We are not on the roads. We are on a bike path for about 40 minutes, and we don't cross a road or touch a road. And when I called them, they said, doesn't sound like you're going to need a permit. So we just kind of ignored them. Turns out they want to know the permit number. And I'm like, well, it's not going to have a number because we didn't do it. So I'm going to call to get further clarification on that. Second thing is they want to know if we've contracted with a first aid provider for this. I have a valid first aid CPR and a card for the VFib, the defibrillator. Does anybody else that's going to be there have that certification? If you're going to, Deb, are you going to be there at Solstice?
Deb?
It's next Thursday, right?
Correct.
The only
So
thing I'll circle back to you. I have to look at my kid's softball schedule.
I'm just going to tell them we have more than one volunteer that will have that, and hopefully that will satisfy that. And the third one is they want me to confirm that they have volunteers at the locations where runners cross the internal park roads. And so I will, after I talk to everybody else, I will circle back to them and say, yes, we will have all the volunteers you want. You were talking about bringing back the Greenway. I tell you what, the way this has gone with Blue Lake, Greenway was my third choice for this event, and now I'm kind of wishing I didn't do it, or I'm not wishing I would have done it, because I wouldn't be going through all this. And of course, our first choice was Mount Tabor, which was really brutal. So things have changed over the years, and Mark will just snicker, I know, because we co-presented this at a race directors convention race directors seminar one time. And, he was getting into how hard the permits have become, and I kind of took the easy approach, and I have new respect for race directors like Mark now, simply because this came out of the blue and I didn't need it. I was told I wasn't going to need it, and now I'm being told otherwise, and I know that that's kind of normal procedure. So those 3 things, people, and I have parking passes. So if I see you at some point, I will issue you one. We're going to stamp, I have 100 passes that will last forever. We will stamp them for the day, and once they're stamped, they need to be used. So I figure I'm going to stamp a couple of books of them. There's books of 25 with my little notary state stamper. And then we will stamp them as needed after that, so that we can use them either in the future, or people can buy them, or we can give them to people that want to go back to the park at some point or something. But we have 100 passes. The scarves look great. And the other details we will touch upon, if needed. Things are proceeding apace.
Cool. Margie, the member picnic.
Yes, so things are rolling along. Currently we have 29 registered for attending. I'm hoping that we'll see a few more sign up. I do only have Hal that mentioned that he was going to be volunteering. For some reason on RunSignUp, I can't see a volunteer signups. So
I know I'm registered to volunteer.
oh,
So
excellent.
yeah.
I'm not sure, where do I see that on RunSignUp on my club, my races? I don't see that.
If you go to my races
And then you,
On your dashboard.
on your
on
dashboard,
the
you
left.
scroll down and it says see more. You click-
Okay,
Then it'll be volunteers. Click on volunteers.
I
and you-
will see more. Okay, and Carrie, thank you so much for volunteering.
Yeah.
And
If you need
anybody
me to
else
put
who's,
out, do you want me to put out another call for volunteers? Okay. I'll do
please,
that.
please.
I'll do that
I
this
could
week.
use at least another 4 or 5.
Okay.
I volunteered to cook hot dogs.
I'm sorry?
I volunteered to cook hot dogs.
Oh, you are on. So I was planning on using the grills that are in the park with briquettes.
Oh, well, we have stoves that have grill tops that we can use if we want to do that.
Okay,
Yes,
I
very
have,
good.
yeah, no, that would be fine. I'm just not how sure I would transport it there unless we rent something. My car can only fit in so much. And so we can talk about equipment. Okay,
We can talk about equipment list and see what.
Yeah.
we can-
I'll do a separate thing because I also, after the Solstice Run, I need to get in and start, kind of looking through what I can get used,
Yeah.
what will fit, where else I might need some help. Now, since Hal is volunteering as a setup, that maybe we can use his truck. So we'll check in with that. Okay, so so some of the fun things are going to be planned. So the cornhole game, that's for sure. There's going to be a bucket toss. So for adults, it'll be further away than for kids. Hula hoop, a little hula hoop competition, I think, is necessary. And then the cakewalk will actually be a pie walk. Okay, and I'm thinking there's going to be 3.
We were going to have
One at 11:30, one at 12, one at 12:30.
You were actually going to do it
I'm
about
sorry?
you were going to do about every 15 or 20 minutes.
50.
So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then I'll up that inventory. Okay. And then, so let's see. I've got the condiments, hot dogs. I'll price everything out. And then when I buy it, I'm going to make sure I'm staying under budget. Let's see. So, so access to the storage, volunteers, music. Do we have, I think you guys mentioned that there was a way to do some music, but I'm not sure.
none of us figured it out yet. We have either the announcing system in theory can connect, but we don't know how. There's also there was that little speaker thing that you got with the sound system, the little portable one that's like a Bluetooth connector that you can connect
Okay.
to the
Bluetooth
phone,
works, so.
but I don't know how that works because we're not technology illiterate. So
Okay, so if it's like a little speaker that connects to a phone, I'll play with that and see what I can have on my phone or through a radio or something. So yeah, so I might snag that when we do the storage room thing. First aid stuff, I definitely wanted to get that also. So okay, so yeah, it's coming along. Planning's looking good. Spreadsheet is really looking good. So more people, please.
all right. There'll be I'll send out another announcement too. We have a newsletter going out the 14th that talks about upcoming events, and then one more regular newsletter that comes out at the end of the month that will also highlight that too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Daniel, Duel.
Okay. Same race, different year. There's not a whole lot to report on Duel. We do have an assistant race director I'm keeping here. There hasn't been a lot of activity on it. It's the same. We did decide what we're going to do with the first hour. It's going to be a kind of a quick version of the Orc Mile. And we are going to do the quad relay because why not? Other than that, it'll be just very similar to other years. The main concern I have is heat, is what's the weather going to be. And we've gone through this now twice in the last 10 years. So we will start watching the weather report. And if we start seeing a number, my high number to start getting concerned is 95. If we get to a projected high in the 90 by 97 by Monday, we need to really consider good decisions here. you'll remember in 2020, we postponed it not once, but twice. Once because of heat, due to 2019, once because of heat, and once because of smoke. So we will keep all that stuff. That's my main concern. We don't need a lot of numbers here to make it successful. In fact, too many numbers make it unsuccessful. So a good number between 60 and 100 is beautiful. 60 is like a great number. We had 62 last time and it was perfect. And we did that on 5 weeks prep. So we should be good. It's going to be a great race. Catlin Gable has already signed off on everything. I was just telling Joe offline, I wish every permit race was like Catlin Gable. I mean, I wish it was all simple. If everybody was as easy to work with as they are. So we're good to go. And if by the way, don't be worried if it's in the 80s. That bowl up there gets cool pretty quickly. So if it's a high of 80 at 5 o'clock, we're going to be in the 70s and the 60s pretty soon into the event. It does cool down quickly. It's just that if we start at 100 and then in 2 hours we're still at 80, and that's too hot for a race like that. So, and it's a hard race. I mean, it's not a race for the faint of heart. So, looking forward to my final director's event, and I'm feeling a little bit of senioritis right now. So, let's get through these last 2 weeks. We got two races.
Cool. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, Hal is not here, but I want to bring everybody up to speed on Pumpkin Ridge. There have been a lot of changes that have happened in the last couple of weeks. We were going to move back to the old start-finish area by the community center, but we were informed by the community center and by the city of North Plains that they would not allow us to use that. So the permit was not approved for that. So we are resubmitting the permit, and we are probably at this point going to be holding it, which I think is actually a better location for the course, at the elementary school on North Avenue. So it's start and finish at the elementary school. The school has said they will allow us to use their fields for parking. And so it's really more of a loop. It's a counterclockwise loop with a little tiny tag out and back for the 10K and the half marathon. So I think it'll work really well. Hal was going to finalize the permit submission this week. So hopefully we'll get that going, and we can let everybody know that Jeff Huber's been fantastic. He is not doing the timing, but he has been mapping the courses for us and getting them all ready. So similar course, but brand new start finish area. But I think
Tracy, what's the date again on that?
That is going to be on August
3rd.
Saturday, August 3rd. It's
Okay,
the week before the Garlic Festival.
And the plaques are going to be in the shape of pumpkins, and the medals
are going to be in the shape of pumpkins. Yep.
And they're giving away medals and rally towels. Cooling towels are probably going to be here. So
Yeah, with the pumpkin on it. So
with pumpkins on it. So
all right. Best Damn Run. I think everything's going fine. I just heard from Valerie today, so nothing really new to report there. And we've already talked about the Portland Marathon. Eventually, pretty soon. I do know the Portland Marathon Expo is going to be at the convention center, so the same place as Shamrock was. So once we have specifics, a little more specifics on that, I'll send out that shared spreadsheet and people can start picking up shifts and stuff for that. And then Turkey Trot. Mark, any updates on Turkey Trot? We haven't really done a whole lot.
No whole lot. I guess couple things. One is the beanies. I'm ready to place. The three of us, Dave, Hal, and I, have decided on a design for the beanie, and so this one we just need to place the order. And so I want to just come back around and talk about quantities.
Mm-hmm.
We're limiting entries to 2,500. So my thought is if we get 2,500 adult size, 500 kid sizes, that should cover us well in terms of quantities. And I'll get that ordered in the next week or two. And that way they get plenty of lead time. It comes from the slow boat from China, saves us money. I think the price that was quoted to me is it come to about $5 each, kind of a price. And like I said, well, both kids and adult sizes. So I'll be ordering those soon. We'll get them in with plenty of lead time. The other two big issues, I think, one is when to have the registration go live. I know in the past it's gone live pretty early, like July or something. And I don't, what's thoughts on that and when it should go live? I'm open to ideas on that.
I think as soon as we know, the course and have a picture of the giveaway, I think we're ready to go. It's pretty much all set up. We just need to confirm like the volunteer list and the
Yeah.
course. But yeah.
I know that the main Dave has already, like months ago, contacted the city of Portland for the permit for the course. So I'll double check with Dave. I don't know if we just maybe just say the date. Let's say throwing a date out there, 4th of July to go live, and that'll give us a little about a month, couple weeks here to be sure everything is in place. But let's have a goal of the registration going live 4th of July, and be sure that multiple eyes look over the run sign up, sure everything is the way we want it, and all of that before we do go live. And so all of that. The other bit is to negotiate with the zoo, because I know there was some discussion about like, well, wait a minute, the zoo's not open. We don't get to see all the animals. Why are we, we do get some discount. Why not more of a discount? All of that. And I think that's I'll just say it, Tracy. I think you'd be good at that.
I'll just say it, Tracy. I think you'd be good at that.
Contact the guy.
Represent the club and have that discussion with them. Mickey's the guy is I'm assuming he's still at the contact, but I think you it should represent the club and have that discussion about the contract and the contents of it and all of that, because there is we are getting we do get something of a discount, but perhaps it should be more. It's a worthy discussion, and I can't see giving up that venue. If they just say, nope, that's just the way it is, then that's the way it is, but at least we tried. It's a great venue. People love it, to go being at the zoo and all of that. And I think we're just looking at trying to negotiate a fair deal, either less money or more animals. I think it's what it comes down to.
Do we need to have a signed contract with the zoo before we open registration? I don't think we did before.
No, we never. We don't need a signed contract, but I think we should have that discussion sooner rather than later. How can I say? Best case scenario is that the zoo says, yeah, you're right. You deserve more animals, same price, but you get more animals. Or let's say, you're right. No, we'll lower the per person cost, that would be, and worst case, we have this discussion with them and they just go, well, it is what it is, take it or leave it. And we're not going to leave it. It's such a great venue. It's an established event. People love it. So I don't see.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Having a signed contract holding up registration. We'll do registration. We'll have the event regardless. I think it's better to have the discussion sooner rather than later. I mean, last year with all the transition, what happened is that I met with Nicki and I said, because it was, I just said, whatever we did last year, we'll do the same thing this year. And there really was no discussion for the details. And because we were in such a rush to put it all together. And I think now that we have time, we, meaning you, should have that discussion.
I'll reach out to him and start that conversation, and I'll copy in Dave. I know Dave was also in discussions with him too. So okay. And then
Keep Dave and Hal in the loop on all of that. So do you want to then reach out to foot traffic and confirm? I know we've already set up the dates in the volunteer list of when packet pickup would be. I will do that. I'll reach out to foot traffic.
See if that works for them.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Awesome. Okay.
8:15.
8:15. Okay. So want to circle back to RRCA, or do we want to save that for next month's meeting? I'm just going to throw that out there for you guys.
Daniel?
Oh, Daniel? Circle around. Okay.
I'm saying go.
Want to
let's
go?
go.
Okay. All right, let's go. RRCA. Share learning. Debbie.
I'll go first. Okay, so I liked Deb's suggestion that we have just 3 quick things that are an overview of what we came away with. And the first one for me was that I got to know other board members. And that helps me understand how we can work together as a club to get things done. People's personalities, working together just like maybe a family. So it was really nice to get to go somewhere off-site, off of our Zoom meetings, and do some great things. And everyone there, I really enjoyed meeting you all. It was awesome. The next thing I took away was that I really liked the expo. I mean, we see expos all the time. We see, you know, the race expos and things like that. But it was really nice to see the vendors really care about us as race directors or club members and things like that, and really seem to want to really try to help us with our races and our club events. One of the things that I came away with at the expo was an organization called Sneakers for Good, and they collect old sneakers and they will give us money per pound of sneakers that we collect. And so what I'll do is I'll put together, you know, their details and send it to the board email, just maybe even to put on to either do sometime or just talk about. But I really think it might be good for our board to get that done to have for our races. But then it puts a little work on people, but I think we could do it. But I'll get that. I'm trying to make this quick. I'll get that into an email. And the last thing I came away with was that aside from the people from our club who went there, I met lots of people there and realized that there are people who are similar to us, and they're in similar offices and positions around the country, and they're also trying to better their own clubs. And in that process, it betters the whole group, the RRCA. And we all have common goals. I mean, we all know that intrinsically that we have common goals as people, but it's really nice to just see people working for a common good. Now, what I came away with.
Cool. Thank you. Susan?
It's going to be hard to follow Debbie, but I'll try. So my takeaways were, one takeaway was from the PR and media presentation. They suggested that each club have kind of a website with information about the club on it, which we do, and that if you're trying to promote a race, whether it be a small one like the Duel or a big one like the Turkey Trot, maybe make a connection with the media, some media, maybe some newspaper or radio station or whatever, and direct them to our website where they would get all the information they need about us so that they could write a very short article or do a very short news piece. And so it just kind of takes the pressure off of the race director. You just kind of direct people to the website. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. It seemed like something that could benefit us. Another thing another talk I went to was on crisis and crisis prevention. When you have a race going on, you try to prepare for every possible thing that would happen so that there isn't a crisis. That would be the first thing, is, prevention. Second thing would be trying to look at what was the cause of the crisis. And the third thing would be, once you're all done with it all and you've managed to get through to the other side, the ambulance has come and gone and everyone's still alive, you think about how you could prevent it in the future. So those are the two things that I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to have a third thing.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Nicki?
Hey, sorry, got distractions here with some burning stuff in the kitchen and the delivery at the door.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we kind of covered a couple of the things that I was interested in talking about. I hit on it at the last meeting, talking about insurance, and I heard you talk about earlier. You said that the insurance coverage, I don't remember what it was specifically now, but just making sure that we have enough adequate coverage for our events to include both the volunteers and the participants.
Mm-hmm.
And then along with what Susan said, if something does happen, do we have, and I haven't taken the race director course, and I'm not sure what all is entailed in that, but do we have a plan for a crisis at the specific location if something does happen? Do we have an incident form, to get all the information and that kind of thing? And that was suggested by the insurance folks. The PR seminar, I was in that one as well, and I thought it was very interesting. We could also, and I'm not the person for this, but we could take our own video and then send it to the news stations with our own pre-written blurb that if it's a slow news day, they will run. I didn't know that was even a thing. So if someone is gifted in that, or if you have a volunteer that is really, socially adept and good on, find a teenager, they could do it. Take a video, right? That would be good quality for a news story and have a good enough phone. But anyway, and there's parameters, like they want a certain length of film and it needs to have, there were parameters, and I have her website for a resource. It was a PR firm that put that class on. And then, it wouldn't bring people to that race because it already happened, but it would give us awareness out in the community about the Oregon Roadrunners Club and maybe for the next race. The board, we've talked a lot about board and the past board and things like that here within this group. So there was a couple takeaways with that. And I think some of this is in the bylaws, and I can look at that myself, but they talked about term limits. And you mentioned this again tonight, the having like a board orientation. I think it's great that we're going to put together something like that, because that was definitely recommended. List of expectations or what your roles are, that kind of thing. And then I took this personal as a motivation, not like a rib, but in board meetings, we all need to be active participants in it. And then at events, board members should be visible ambassadors, is one of the things that she said. So being at the event as much as possible and being representatives at the event. And the last thing was about volunteers, which was my favorite session, and just how to wrangle volunteers and keep them coming. And there was a lot of just good info about that. So yeah.
Great. Awesome. Deb Brown?
Yeah, I probably won't talk type while I'm talking. I looked through my notes. I didn't type them up like Susan and Mark did. That was amazing that you guys did that. So one of the workshops that I enjoyed the most was the volunteer workshop as well. And I really liked how her emphasis was on basically every contact point that you're having with volunteers is an opportunity to be relationship building in order to really build up your loyal crew of volunteers. And so there's just different things. I mean, she was extremely detailed, and she said that you could look at her PowerPoint slides if you wanted to, but she talked about setting expectations. She talked about making it fun, saying thank you, all of these ways that basically every contact point you're having with people that is a potential future volunteer for your organization. And I really liked that way that she framed it. And for me, it holds true with, you always want to come back and volunteer the things that are just super fun to do. So I really felt like that's the spirit, that if we can be channeling that and have it go smoothly and great for volunteers. She talked about problem solving too, but I was focusing more on the positive side of things. There was a workshop about mission statements, and there was another, it was kind of about like identity and branding. And there was another one that was about a club that redid their logo. And I liked both of those, just considering the fact that the club has been in this transition year in the past year, and thinking about, like, I think our logo is great. Their example was a logo that was like very, very outdated, like a 30-year-old logo. But I liked what they were talking about with the mission statement and the branding and sort of the purpose of why the club is there. And I think I'll probably only have two things, because for me, this connected to, like, we have a pretty decent, concise mission statement also, but I thought a lot about how in this transition time, there are a lot of folks that have a long history with the club. And so they have a strong identity that they have experienced with the club that they carry forward with them. And then there's people like me who've been in the club 9 years, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not compared to people who've been in the club for 30 or 40 years and don't really know the people or the history in that way. And so that, what are the ways that we can be thinking about the club being relevant to not just current members, but all of the future members? What are the ways that we can make it resonate and feel relevant to the community? And for me, there's like an identity thing. Like some of the smaller clubs have this very particular niche that they step into, where they are, like the Front Runners is like LGBTQ focused. The Red Lizards is like, we're fast. And we have, like, we're not really West Side, we're not really East Side. Like, we're bigger and more amorphous. And for me, it's harder for me to feel what the club's identity is, just because it's larger. I don't know. Right. So I've just been ruminating about, what does that mean for resonating with future club members? Yeah. So I don't have answers. I'm just pondering it. Like, I know why I joined the club, but I don't know why, I want to feel like we have a better grip on what draws people in. How do people feel welcome and connected? So yeah, those are my takeaways.
No, those are great. Mark?
And just Deb, those are worthy questions, and we definitely should come back and discuss in the future. I'll keep mine short here at the end. I have two things. One is just being reminded again just how much the RRCA can offer, different programs and such. And quick example, hosting a coaching clinic. We used to do in-person coaching clinics, and I'm working on having us do that again sometime, either the end of this year or beginning of next year, is a quick example. But there's so much out there, and as specific ideas come up, I will be presenting them to the board. Second is, like, a lot of the workshops had really terrific PowerPoints, but the stuff is just zipping past you so quickly, you really couldn't keep up with the notes. And I contacted the RRCA, and I am told that Jean is compiling all that. Jean is contacting each of the presenters and saying, please forward your PowerPoint presentation to the RRCA. And once they're all in one place, all of those presentations will be offered to the attendees at the convention. And so once the RRCA has done that and sent me a link, I will be passing that on. So everybody here, everybody on the board can have access to these incredible presentations and in a detailed format. The volunteers, PR, the whole bit.
Great. Awesome. That's it.
May I ask one question of the attendees?
Yes.
It's fairly quick. Did we make any progress at all in trying to get a state representative?
Daniel, were you at the last meeting when George was here?
Yeah, I asked him the question. He said there's a process.
That's without going too far in the weeds. That's essentially what the message, because I talked to George, who was the outgoing president, and I talked to, I forget her name, but the incoming president of the RRCA, and I talked to both of them, and and I said, hey, I'm from Oregon, and could my club help you at all in this process of finding a new regional rep and a new state rep for Oregon? And their response was, that's okay, we got this, we'll get back to you. So I offered, for our club to be involved in that process, and they essentially said, let us handle it. So, unless or until someone from the RRCA approaches us, I think we're best just to wait. There's not much more that we can do.
I appreciate that. I expected that with the answer.
Lisa.
But
That's right, Lisa. I met Lisa. Yeah, I forget to. I'm bad at names, but yeah, I met Lisa. Lisa's going to be. George is an incredible person, but Lisa will also do a very good job as president. I met her. She's good.
Page?
I'm sorry?
Lisa Page?
Um,
Page?
Sounds like Rippy or Rip.
I'm willing to give this a little bit of time, but at some point, if we don't have any progress, I'm going to start dogging them, because they're not going to be. For people like you and me and Margie, this is important to the state. So we know we all of us have been there. We know how important it is. So I'm going to keep dogging them if they don't. I'm going to give them some time, but they've got like 16 clubs in our state and that are represented in some from all those clubs to somebody that needs to represent us. So all right, good job, everybody.
Daniel,
conference.
It doesn't have to be historically, it's typically been someone from ORRC. It doesn't have to be. It's not. I think your insistence and my insistence on it too would be, it's not because one of us wants to do it or has to be from our club, but our state should be represented, and doesn't matter which club they belong to, as long as they represent our area. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was it.
You sent out an email about the signs.
Oh, if anybody has responded to, we have an inventory. We after we moved the units, we also before we moved the units, actually, we went to the storage units and inventoried all the signs that we have. And I made a spreadsheet and sent it to all the race directors and reminded them I need responses by the end of this month. And they're on the list as a recommendation of signs we keep, signs I don't know about or unsure about, and signs that I recommend we get rid of. And unless I hear otherwise, by the end of the month, if I don't hear anything, the ones I recommend we get rid of, we're going to get rid of. If you have a vested interest in the signs, take a look at the list. Let me know. There's just so many signs that we haven't been using, so no need to store them.
Yep.
And that's all I had. So our next meeting is Tuesday, July 9th, which will be after the picnic. So I hope to see a lot of you at Solstice or at the picnic before our
I'm
next
taking
meeting.
minutes of it.
And Julie's going to be taking minutes at the July meeting since Deb can't do it. And Joe, yes.
Just as far as subjects for the next meeting, just in general, I was wondering if we could consider perhaps lowering race entry fees a little bit in general, but more specifically, the progressive pricing, where the price goes up after a while, a few times before the race. That seems like kind of an artifact of the Steve Wright years. And I wonder if we could just settle on a set price and not have the incremental pricing, because it's, I don't know, as a running club, I don't think we need to do that. A commercial company, that makes sense, but for this club, it's kind of confusing, and I don't know, I think it might be kind of a deterrent to people that are just interested in running club races. So anyway, that's just something I thought might be brought up for discussion at the next meeting.
Set our calendar.
I think that's a great idea, and we can discuss that at the same time we're setting our race calendar.
Yeah.
I know for Turkey Trot, they've always had the progressive pricing.
Yeah.
For that, but for all of our other events, I do like the idea of having one price prior to race day, so it's more expensive to encourage people to register prior to race.
A day of race price and I early registration price.
Yeah, so I
sense.
like that idea of just one price and day of race pricing. If you, it's easier for everything. So Margie.
Maybe some, well, I apologize. Maybe something in the newsletters that say, look, as members, you get a $15 discount now. So it might also maybe encourage people to join if they're not members.
Yeah. Margie.
So real quick, I will not be able to attend the meeting in July, but I will have a write-up after the picnic, kind of recap for you.
Great.
All right. It'll be a great one.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Cool. All right. Then I will say we're adjourned. Then we are adjourned.